Hello, I'm Mac, at least for a day, and everything's going to be okay. This is another episode of Reading Your Comments, and my final word at the end is going to be about will No Man's Sky become more popular after the 5th anniversary update this year. I need to mention one thing, and it's that a lot of people on the video where I requested comments about the anniversary, some of the people commented many times, and I didn't mention this rule, but I'm only going to be reading one comment per person, so you can't double dip by commenting a whole bunch of times. And also the regular disclaimer, I made it clear on the video where I asked for comments that commenting was giving me permission to show your username. So YouTube, I have gotten their permission to show their IDs. Alright, first is Casey Carlson. Starship customization. It's in the description of the Beyond update. It's under the description for ambient multiplayer, and we can see that they never delivered. Why is nobody else calling them out for this? So I looked, after I read this comment, I looked at the Beyond update patch notes, and I see what he's talking about. What it says is we now have full multiplayer, and you can see each other's character models and ship customizations. So basically what I think Hello Games is saying there is we can see each other's character model and each other's ships. So the customization, quote unquote, they're talking about is when you get a ship, ships are procedurally generated, so you have to search the universe and find a really unique ship, because they're all pretty much unique. So you get to show off your unique special ship to other people. Customization was a bad choice of words. What they're saying was you can show, other players can see your character model and your ship, which is your special ship that you found and got. I could be wrong. And also, right after the Beyond update, we got the Synthesis update. The Synthesis update was when we got the ability to increase slots on ships and upgrade their class. But a lot of people, for some reason, don't think of that as ship customization. They want to customize the appearance. But Synthesis update did add a kind of ship customization, which was the ability to increase slots and class. So all of that is up for debate, but that's what I think what they meant by that. I don't think they were lying when they said the word customization there. I think they meant something else, or they were referring to the customization we got right after the Beyond update, which was in the Synthesis update. Paul Ross says, upgrade freighter to S-Class. Yes, I agree with that. We should be able to upgrade our freighters to S-Class. I talked about that in the last video, so I'm not going to touch on that much more. Samaya says, just don't expect too much. Yes, I agree. We should always temper our expectations and not get too overhyped for a No Man's Sky update. We get a really cool, pretty large update every year for the anniversary, but don't expect it to completely transform the game. For instance, the quote-unquote leak that was on Reddit that was then deleted that I did a video about recently, that was unrealistic expectations. That was a complete transformation of the game where everything was different and this huge, gigantic new storyline. Galaxies were changed to be different universes, etc. That is not realistic, so don't expect things that are so out of bounds. Look at all of the other anniversary updates and expect something about as big as that. Don't expect everything to be completely changed so that this is a completely different game. It's going to be a big improvement like we usually get with new content, but it's not going to completely transform the game into something else. Jack Cooper says, newer freighter parts, new ships. Yep, new types of ships and new types of freighters would be a great addition to the game. THTDI Inc. is a friend of mine. I think of him as a friend. We've known each other for a while. He does some No Man's Sky videos as well. He says, exploration and combat focused update would be nice with more of a challenge. I like to see cities, new settlements, owning space stations and rebuilding them. I would like some sort of story additions involving the Abyss, and potentially entering the Void and facing this new threat and seeing unique worlds. Of course, this is ambitious, but still my ideal 5th anniversary update. Yes, I would really like to see more of the Abyss/Void and maybe the World of Glass. I don't know if they are related, but there are like mysterious places or evil entities alluded to over and over in No Man's Sky lore that we still have never gotten in the game. So hopefully they will finally build that and make it an actual gameplay thing and not just lore that we read. Matt DePhantom says, I'm thinking of an exclusive update for next-gen consoles. We need another graphic overhaul, stuff like physical solar systems, better galaxy map with a realistic feel to it, better looking nebulas, etc. So I like all of his ideas here to improve the game. However, you really cannot have next gen become different than old gen, and the reason for that is currently there's crossplay across all platforms. A PlayStation 5 person can play with a PlayStation 4 person, and I don't think Hello Games is ever going to walk that back and take away crossplay from some people. So the universe has to always match up. We can't completely regenerate the PS5 universe or the Xbox X majigger. I don't know what they call it now. They keep using the word X in different ways. Whatever Xbox X-majigger Series X, that's it. Xbox Series X and S. They can't completely regenerate the universe on the new consoles because then PS4 and Xbox One players wouldn't be able to play with them because the universes wouldn't match up. You couldn't be on the same planet as each other and such. So I don't think, I mean, it would be possible. Hello Games could make that decision to cut off the PS4 and Xbox One players from the next gen players, but I don't think they're going to do that. They always are making things more inclusive. We've been getting more and more multiplayer, more and more crossplay. They're not going to suddenly divide everyone up. In fact, Sean has said at times the decisions they've made have been made to not divide the player base, such as different game modes. He didn't want to create more game modes, although I suppose he made the Expedition update now, but Expedition update is technically normal mode. So anything that they do, I think they're going to avoid splitting up the community. So I don't think we're ever going to get next-gen specific updates that totally regenerate the universe. Obviously, we've already gotten some next-gen updates that just optimize it on those platforms, but it's not going to be changing planets to something totally different so that crossplay no longer works. Sebastian Goulet says, we need better challenge for high-end players, like huge enemies that you can try to defeat alone, but have more chance to defeat in a group, and just more enemies in general, with planets that are more dangerous than others with a threat level system. That would require via a bioscan technology on your ship. I love this idea. I've talked about having bosses in the game before, but I love this idea of planets with really dangerous creatures. We've got extreme sentinel planets, which are a little more dangerous, more annoying because the sentinels aggro you and you have to run away. It would be much cooler if we had planets that were extreme for a different reason, not extreme weather, not extreme sentinels, but extreme creatures. Really large creatures that often attack you, really territorial creatures. Like, yeah, an extreme creature planet would have all of the creatures be offensive to the player. Basically, they're all territorial. Even the herbivores would attack the player because they're territorial and don't want us in their space. So it would be a new type of extreme planet, and it would also have larger creatures with more health, basically boss type creatures, that you would get special rewards for defeating them. But yeah, it would be a much more difficult kind of planet to traverse because you'd be constantly being attacked by creatures. That would be a cool way to do a combat update, is to add a new type of extreme planet with extremely aggressive creatures. Lord Markov is next. He's a really good friend of mine, and we've known each other a long time, and he was a member of my Spacing Guild group and kind of one of the co-leaders of the Spacing Guild. Of course, the Spacing Guild is kind of broken up now. I mean, it still exists, but it's not an active group. So Lord Markov and I have been through thick and thin. And thankfully we're still friends, and we still interact quite a bit, despite good and bad things that have happened to us, but I think our friendship is stronger as a result. I hope he agrees. He says, through the years, Hello Games has given us most of what was on my wish list. However, there are a couple of items that has not yet been or not yet completely done with subsequent updates. We need a villain, not just police-like sentinels. I would like to see pirates overhauled. Scenarios so we can see things like the Battle of Corvax Prime. Ooh, time travel, yeah. Cities, yep, cities. And an actual game end game. Yes, I agree with all of those things. Very good suggestions. I think I just said in this video that I would like a greater, more powerful evil entity like a villain. And I really like his idea here of getting to see the past events. We've got lore in the game that things have happened in the past, but if they could actually add time travel, people have talked about this before, I don't know if this is feasible, but if they could let us travel through time and space and go back to Corvax Prime and get to see what that planet was like, it'd be like a completely technological planet owned by the Corvax, and maybe we would witness it being destroyed, or hopefully we could also go back and just enjoy it before it's destroyed. Same with the Gek home world. I forget what it's called, but they had spawning pools. We could see Gek spawning pools. And then the Viking home world, where Herc and Null kind of had warring factions, I guess, and we could see that whole thing going on. Yeah, that would be really cool. And yeah, I agree with the other stuff he said, which we've talked about before. Etherd says, I want a combat update. The game's combat is hilariously outdated. I want multi-swords, magic, dual multi-weapons, and sentinel drone hacking, planet dungeons, etc. Yeah, the magic part, that's a little funny. I definitely don't think that they would do that, because that's a different genre. Lasers are basically a science fiction version of magic. Magic is usually, in a game where you fight with magic, is, you know, slinging spells, throwing magical attacks like fire and stuff at your enemy, is pretty much the same as shooting them with an energy weapon. We don't have the flamethrower, unfortunately, because they still haven't added that back into the game. But we've got lasers, we've got guns, we've got gun-type weapons, which, of course, isn't at all like magic. But I would say that laser weapons are as close to magic as we're going to get, because you're shooting an offensive energy at an enemy. Multi-swords, though, I definitely agree with. I've often thought that we have the ability to melee with our multi-tool, so I think it would be nice to give us the option to be a person that wants to melee, that like we could concentrate on melee instead of using other weapons. Like, you'd still need your mining beam for when you need to mine, but to fight you could choose to melee. So if you have the multi-sword technology installed, if you melee, your multi-tool will have a laser sword on it, basically like a lightsaber, and as long as you don't use a different weapon that weapon will stay out while you press the melee button. And then once you use a different weapon, it will retract and go back into your multi-tool. But yeah, that would be super cool. I would love improved melee combat. Allow us to melee more with our weapon than just a tiny little nothing attack with our weapon. Alright, so that's it for the comments. Now, like I promised, I'm going to talk about the popularity of No Man's Sky. Pretty much every time we've gotten a really big update, the popularity of No Man's Sky has gone up. Atlas Rises improved the people's view of No Man's Sky quite a bit, although it still had a lot of hate back then. The next update, which was the second anniversary update, that was the turning point. Most people agree that the next update was the turning point for No Man's Sky, when things got way better. Like, basically, the majority of people who played No Man's Sky still all liked No Man's Sky then. Obviously, there's still haters that will never give the game a chance again, even though they haven't played it since launch, but it pretty much made it so that everybody who gave No Man's Sky a second chance liked it. The Beyond update underwhelmed a lot of people and brought a lot of bugs, so it was probably the weakest of the anniversary updates so far, but it still did add a lot of cool features that a lot of people liked. Origins update, tons of people liked because it was exactly what we were asking for, a huge variety update. And then this year, I think they're probably going to improve No Man's Sky quite a bit more again, and I think that it will probably make the game more popular. I don't know the numbers, but I think the popularity of No Man's Sky keeps going up. I looked at Steam the other day and there were 11,000 people playing it. It used to be after a big update, it would be real popular for a while and then it would go down to like 2,000 people at a time on Steam. But now, if 11,000 is the average players at any given time, that's really awesome. And of course it gets up into the hundreds of thousands when we have a big update. Not every time. Not all updates have been that big. Pretty much Atlas Rises and Next took us into the hundred thousands of players playing it once on Steam. But 11,000 on average is incredible. For a game that's almost 5 years old, 11,000 players playing it once is very impressive. So I think that this update, the 5th anniversary update, will be very big and that it will bring even more players to the game. So anyway, that does it for today's Reading Your Comments video. I will be back tomorrow with another one. I've been Mac. Thank you for joining me for a day. And remember, everything's going to be okay. Special thanks to my monthly supporters, Shannon and Jeremy, Shell Owens, JSpot51, Meg Payton. Thank you so much for helping me continue to make daily content.